However you are and whenever you are, welcome back to Coffee and UFOs, two of my favorite things. I have a return guest on tonight, Jesse Peak. He is a MUFON State Director based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He is a real deal investigator. He's also part of the Experiencer resource team out of MUFON, which is a team designated to intaking quote unquote abductee reports, experiencer contactee reports with close encounters. And I actually am just joining the ERT team myself, so I'm still in the beginning stages of processing that. But I'm really curious to talk to Jesse about this, especially because I'm new to the ERT team. I think that so much of the news coverage today really covers the UAP news and what's going on with released military videos, and all that is fantastic, but I always like to bring it back to what are people on the daily experiencing out there regarding the UFO enigma, and in particular these odd high strangeness contactee experiences, reports that we've been getting for decades, many of which, and I can attest to this, and so can any other MUFON investigator, there's so many people out there who have high strangeness encounters regarding UFOs that aren't out there in the news. There aren't YouTube channels, covering their stories, doing editorials. It's not on the History Channel. These are just people who are out there. They had an experience. They wanted to share it, and they have zero intention of being publicly known or to share it publicly. People who have experiences that they believe 100% was real. And to be in this field, you have to have an open mind, and you have to have empathy, compassion, kindness, and the willingness to listen and hope that you can learn something from those experiences, because many of those experiencers, it turns out they're sane. They're just regular people. It could be a recurring event, or it could be something that happened once many decades ago or last week, and that's it. And then they move on with their life. So I want to bring on our special guest, Jesse Peak. How are you, brother? Welcome back.
Hey, Alan. Thank you for having me, man. Glad to be
Yeah,
back.
absolutely. So obviously, having just been accepted into the ERT myself, I'm really curious about what ERT does, and if you can share what you do in that regard, with the listeners.
Absolutely. I think it's important to start off by saying, as an ERT member, we're not there to tell you if your experience really happened or
Hmm.
whether you did go through something or you didn't go through something.
Hmm.
We're there simply as a support option. We're there as a shoulder for you to lean on, for you to tell your story to someone, because most people, they have no one to talk to. So most of the time, we're the first person they're explaining their entire experience to, which can be frightening in itself.
Right.
So yeah, we basically we just talk on the phone. We get to know you really well, get to hear your side of the story, and we're
Hmm.
there in any support fashion that you need. Whether you may need information on the subject because you might not be educated on it.
Yeah.
You may need support groups, which a lot of people do, myself included. After I have my experiences,
Hmm.
because I am an experiencer myself. And then we also do things like hypnosis, and we have medical professionals that can help you and go even farther with your help.
Yeah.
So we really do a bunch of different things for individuals, but most important is to be there for them. You know what I mean? Because they don't have anybody, even their own family. I mean, I even experienced it when I went through my experience, where I told a couple of different family members about what happened to me, and one family member of mine actually, kind of shot me down and told me, stop looking into that crazy stuff, and it kind of hurt. So you don't tell your family members about this kind of stuff because you're afraid of that, and it happens a lot. So it's great that we can be there for people, and we're able to take reports like this and do this for individuals. We do go through a
Yeah.
separate training process than a regular field investigator,
Hmm.
which is great too. We go through mental health training, which is something I actually helped put into the training process. It's called the Be There certificate. Very, very important. I think that that's also a big part of the experience phenomenon. But yeah, I mean, that's basically the short gist of it, just a support option to be there as a shoulder to lean on for people and to help them if they want to further their knowledge of the subject and get further help to learn about their own experience.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There is a lot to learn. I just want to share this comment really quick with you from Kurt W75 in YouTube. He says, "Howdy, Alan. Great to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Jesse, thanks for your time and knowledge tonight. Also from and currently in PA. So good to see you also." So it's nice to see another Pennsylvania.
Awesome. How you doing, Kurt?
Yeah. In Pennsylvania, do you see any trends regarding the UFO phenomena?
So with the ERT, I don't, they send us cases from all over. So we don't specifically get them just from Pennsylvania when you're with the ERT. It's a little more wherever they need you, they kind of send you type deal. So, I mean, I haven't really talked to specifically just people here in Pennsylvania about the experience phenomenon, but a lot of trends that I have seen that I have come across, different marks on the body. A lot of times people come away with different markings. People think they have implants. A lot of times what I see, and I've actually dealt with it myself, the triangular marks, 3 dots, and I see this a lot. I mean, it's really weird. It kind of, gets you thinking, whether it's on their arms or legs, wherever it is, after they have an experience, they have these 3 dots in a triangular shape. And it's like, what is that? And we still haven't been able to figure it out. But I mean, it's just mind blowing to see the kind of things people can walk away with after having an experience. And then even some people have the implants, like we know Willie Strieber was somebody that had major implants in his ear. But yeah, it's really interesting.
I think what a lot of people misunderstand about the intake of the experience or reports, they see movies, they see documentaries, and they think it's like some kind of like program where you're offering therapy and hypnotherapy and all these things. And that's really not initially what it's about. It's about just hearing the person out, intaking their case.
That's
so
right.
that they feel like they have someone that's non-judgmental that listens to their story. But the resource is in the title, right? So you can refer them if need be. You can there's an outsourced referral that you can say, hey, you can reach out to these people if you'd like.
Yeah,
And
100%.
Have you had success with that, where they've reached out to someone for help?
So I put people in contact with both hypnotherapists and remote viewers, because hypnotherapy is not for everybody. Some people don't agree with how it works and what you have to go through to kind of get those memories back. So remote viewing is something that is another option, and I've actually sent more people to do that, myself included. I had Margie K actually do my remote viewing, the owner and producer of the MX Network, and MUFON Director of Missouri. She actually did my remote viewing for me and helped me with my experience, and actually gave me a lot of information that I didn't have prior. Some people get scared when they do hypnosis because it can mess with your memories, and sometimes you can be unsure of if something's real or not. And it can mess your memories up and put them in different places. So yeah, I've done those. And I've had some people say it's helped tremendously. And I've had some people say, it really didn't. Some people are better just learning more information about the subject, and that's how they learn more about their own experience. And some people learn through the remote viewing process or the hypnosis. Every person's different. That's definitely a big part of this. There's no one person that has the same thing coming to you for help. So, everything is its own. It's like you're treating it for the first time. So very important.
Yeah. How much do you think these experiences are like truly like a physical contact experience with an extraterrestrial?
That's a important question. Big question there. I don't know. I mean, most people think that they have some kind of contact with ET that I talk to through the ERT. But I've also come across a lot of individuals that we've come to find out that where they thought they've had contact with an ET or a being, it's actually a screen memory in place. I don't know how to figuring out how to explain this to you. Like, so for example, you know, they think that they've seen something or had an experience happen or did something,
Mhm.
but really it was just a memory put there to make them forget about something else that happened during their experience. That's what a screen memory kind of is.
Mhm.
It's placed there to make you think something else happened when something really happened that was opposite of it. So I've dealt with that, and it's 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 interesting how they can change memories like that and make you have screen memories in place of real memories.
Yeah, but how do you know if it's a screen memory versus how do you discern between that and a real memory?
That's a good question. So for example, I guess this is the easy one.
Mhm.
Um, I talked to another MUFON member about this, and they came to find out that they had a screen memory in place of a real memory. They said that they were driving down the street. They
Mhm.
had loss of time, and they remember driving down the street, and they came to a fork in the road, and a tree was in the middle of the road, and they had their contact experience.
Mhm.
When really, what happened was is that he was abducted from the vehicle, um, and he was taken up to the craft. He had some things done to him, was placed back in his vehicle, and that's when he returned home with the missing time. But he remembered there being a tree in the middle of the road and coming into contact with some kind of other being.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but as he did regression and hypnosis, he kind of found out that's not really what happened. It was a memory that was implanted there to make him think something else happened.
It's almost like a
It's
it's like
it's
a
difficult
block.
to
Like
explain.
you can get like through the regression, you can kind of get past that block. It's like there's a memory behind
Right,
it. Is that what
right.
this it's like?
Sometimes.
I think another sign
Yeah, yeah. I
that
mean, it's
yeah, I was gonna say another sign could be like let's say you're driving down the road, people will see something like deer or animals kind of just standing
right,
there, right? Almost unnaturally,
right.
looking at
That's right.
them. Yeah, and that's a
Yep,
clue that there's a screen memory of some sort.
that's right. And that you made me remember there is an option when we're doing our list for the ERT, and actually
Mhm.
people can see mostly see owls is like the big thing, one of the animals
Hmm,
they see the
interesting.
most. But we actually have a selection that we can select during when we're filling out the paperwork of different animals they see, and that's a screen memory. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not really an owl sitting there looking at you that you came in contact with. It's actually a being, and you had contact experience. You know, it's interesting.
Right. Okay, I have to ask you about this. So I have a particular interest in electrical malfunctioning and UFO encounters, um, interference, with with technology. So this is something that you've spent time on.
Yeah.
What is happening? Why do we see this sort of interference with electronics and mechanics with UFO encounters? And what have you discovered?
So we've come across I mean, a couple different theories as to why it could be happening.
Hmm.
One is to, you know, kind of the stopping of sharing the information of an experience happening at that moment in time. We've seen where, like, for example, a cell phone malfunctions when you see a UFO. When they come within a
Right.
certain
Yeah.
range of the individual, their cell phone malfunctions, all electronics around them, you know, stop working.
Hmm.
And once the UFO begins to leave and reaches a certain distance, everything comes back on like normal, like nothing ever happened. Um, in that case, in a lot of cases, we see that this is happening because they don't want you to call for help. They don't want you to share the information. They don't want you to take videos and send it on a live stream. You know what I mean? Things
Hmm.
like that.
Sure.
It's just theories that we've come to think about. You know what I mean? Why else would they stop you from using a cell phone during an encounter? You know, maybe to get photos. But even though there's been people that have taken photos of UFOs, and then when they go to look at the photo later on, it's completely blurry and it doesn't even come out to be anything, or the object's too far
True.
away,
Yeah.
or a bunch of different things can happen. So in that instance, I would say that they don't want you sharing that information. They don't want you remembering what happened. They don't want you
Hmm.
to, they're kind of trying to hide what they're doing in a sense. Um, that's the main reason we come across that in the research that we've done through Project BATTECH.
Yeah. Um, this is one of those things you hear from skeptics and debunkers. Why don't people whip out their cell phone and take a picture when they're having a close encounter, an abduction experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's that side of it. There's a technological malfunction. One of my MUFON reports that I dealt with, that's exactly what they described. They tried to take out their phone, and as they did, the phone just shut down.
Right.
It
Yep.
just they couldn't take a picture with it. And then
Yeah.
after the UFO had passed by, it was like working fine again.
So that's exactly what happened to me, and that's the reason I
Mhm.
kind of started the project, is because I had my first major experience with my dad,
Mhm.
where we had witnessed 4 gold objects in the sky, daylight sighting in the middle of the city of Philadelphia. Um, Pretty crazy stuff. We watched them change formation and then disappear one at a time. Um, but I had just gotten my phone. I had it for about a month, and I took my phone out, and I'm trying to take photos and video of it, and my phone started like the screen went black, and my buttons started going crazy. And then like you see it on Skinwalker Ranch, I
Yeah.
say to people a lot because that's where you see it at.
Yeah.
And then I started taking video, but it wouldn't record. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then they changed formation from a single file to a 2 and 2 formation. Once they did that, they went from the 2 and 2 to a single file, and then they started disappearing one at a time. And then once the last 2 were left, my phone
Uh-huh.
came on, and I was able to take a photo, which I have still photos of the last 2 objects. But the other video I took is all black, but only has audio recording from the video I was trying to take of when they were changing formation, when I was trying to get all 4 objects in the sky. So I had that happen to me, and I didn't know that it was a major phenomenon where these electrical malfunctions happen. And then I started getting cases through MUFON and on the side, and that's when I started Project BATTECH, and I was like, wow, this is something to it. This is why this happened, And then that's when we started doing the research into this, because that's obviously what happened there in that situation is what I feel now. You know what I mean? But I didn't know it at the
Yeah.
time. Um,
Well,
it's
there's
pretty crazy.
intentional. Yeah, it seems like there's this an intentional interference with technology, but do you think that there's just sort of like incidental
Yes, that's
interference?
the other
Yeah.
thing too,
Mhm.
is that we believe that their technology is so great and we don't fully understand it yet. Is that their natural technology can malfunction regular objects that we have here on Earth because they're
Mhm.
just so far advanced that, I mean, a lot of times we see that it's radiation that can affect electronics and things like that.
Mhm.
And naturally, they probably have radiation on their craft, you know what I mean? Their propulsion systems, whatever it is that they're using, and
Mhm.
they're naturally flying by, and it's hitting our electrical, whatever we're using it, whatever electronics we're using. And the cool part is as we started doing more cases for Project BATTECH, we started to realize that the data was giving us a range that the UFOs had to come within to affect the electronics.
Sure.
So we would
Yeah.
see they would come within a certain amount of feet within the person or the experiencer. And then once they reach that limit and move from that area, the electrons come back on. So that's how we figured out it had to be some kind of technology that they're using that's naturally doing this as well. But there are intentions
Yeah.
where they do it purposely, I think.
I think the most simplified way of explaining it is when you take a cell phone, especially the older cell phones, and you bring it close to a speaker,
Yep.
and you kind of get this like electrical feedback, this ringing sound. It's two technologies living side by side, but when they get just close enough, they don't
Yeah.
interact well. Yeah, and so if you're talking about technology from off world that is however many years in advance with ours, there's bound to be some sort of interference or
Yeah.
incompatibility. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we see how strong radiation is, and there's different types of radiation, which we did research on
Hmm.
during the project. So, I mean, it could be any factors of this. You know what I mean? Just affecting it
Yeah.
just naturally. It's pretty crazy. We did a bunch of research papers. There's a website for it. So if anybody did want to check it out, you can go to projectbattech.wordpress.com,
Hmm.
and read everything. We made everything public as possible, so everybody can kind of learn from it.
It's a
But we did a lot of work on it.
project BATTECH.
Project BATTECH 404.wordpress.com. Let's see if I can put it in the chat
.org.press.com.
here.
Okay. Yeah, if you can put it in chat, that would be great.
Yep, signing in now.
Okay, cool. So can you discern anything from
Sorry, it's making me sign in.
No, that's all right. Can you discern anything from that research to help explain what the technology is, to kind of reveal what they might be using as a technology, quote unquote they?
So yeah, I definitely think it's ionizing radiation and non-ionizing radiation, which is a big factor
But and
in
how
them
is that?
affecting our technology. And I
That's
think it
is
has
that
to do
just
with the propulsion systems.
is that just the effect, or
That's
like
natural
does that
effects of ionizing.
what would the purpose be for ionizing? Would it be like for anti-gravity? Would it like what would the what's the function? Do you think? You know, if you're taking a guess.
Explain it all to you real quick. 1 second.
Okay, sure.
I just want to get you the right
We're
information.
gonna get that
I
link.
don't want to get it mixed up, and I have it right here. So we have, yeah, it's making me sign in to the chat for some reason, and I cannot get into chat.
Oh, okay.
It's
Don't
weird.
worry. I mean, you can
Never
always
had that
email or
before.
text it, and then I can share it as well.
Here, let me explain this. Okay, so let me see here. We have the, and we kind of explain it like if people don't fully understand it. We did a paper. It's called Cosmic Rays and EM, and if we know typically, you know, we can have different cosmic rays that come in from the universe, and that naturally affects our technology and different electronics that we have. And you kind of think of the UFO as being a moving cosmic ray as it moves through Earth. You know what I mean? It moves by individuals with electronics.
Yeah.
We did a paper all on that, and what, you know, the different particles of cosmic rays and how it can affect it. But we did the radio, microwave, or let me see, the radiation frequencies and microwave frequencies. Okay. Let's see what we got here. It's a lot of detailed information. That's why I want to look at it and read it all to you that way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got, let's see. So you have radiated. Here we go. Types of electrical malfunctions. So you have radiated, which happens when high-powered transmitters or electrical devices produces a radio frequency that is picked up and causes unwanted effects on another device. So that's a natural radiated electromagnetic interference, radiated. So if a UFO is having some kind of radiation or is using a propulsion system that has that in it, it's naturally going to knock out your electronics as it's flying by.
Right.
And then you have conducted electromagnetic interference, which happens when there's a physical electrical path from a source to a receptor. So it's also connecting to electronics as it's moving along, depending on what kind of radiation and what kind of electronics they have on board of their UFO. And then you have coupled electromagnetic interference, which happens when the source and the receptor are close together, but not electrically connected. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we have on here that can really give you a good idea.
What do you mean by the receptor?
So, for example, the UFO, whatever technology they have on the UFO is the receptor. Oh, I'm sorry. So, for example, your cell phone, that could be a receptor.
Okay.
It could be. So, for example, the UFO could have something in their technology that connects to your cell phone and uses it as a receptor. You know what I mean? And causes that malfunction purposely, like we talked about earlier.
Gotcha.
That's kind of like sourcing it out and doing it purpose.
I see. Okay. When you have you found in your research any contactees or experiencers that have noticed the use of any technology actively during their experience, like kind of like an inside scoop of like maybe what's going on from the inside?
So yeah, I've had. Oh, what's going on? How it's happening? No, I haven't.
Or yeah, I mean, are they seeing any activity, any functions being used, any technology being used? Yeah. Jesse, can you hear me?
Ask anybody like that yet? You're talking about professional as to what it might be doing.
Well, yeah, just like if you're a witness, right? If you're an experiencer, and you're maybe on board a craft or what have you, is there anything that they're seeing on the inside and going, oh, that could be maybe that's it's what this
Oh,
technology
absolutely,
is, or yeah.
absolutely. Right. Yeah. I mean, I mean, I've heard it in experiencer stories before, where they're on a craft and they see, they always describe the room that they're in, and seeing the
Hmm.
table, and we see the different utensils that they have on the craft, and they're going to be, they use these different things to look at their body and put the implants in and things like that. So just by their description of how advanced the technology is that they're using just to do like this overall exam of them, I mean, you
Yeah.
can only imagine what they must have in the craft in general, especially to fly in and out of our atmosphere. You know what I mean?
Right.
To be able to transfer from space to Earth like that, still be able to survive here on Earth. It's mind boggling, you know?
I think it's fascinating. Most reports, from what I can tell, when you're talking about a light source on inside of the craft, that they can't pinpoint a particular light source. And there have been reports of someone maybe lying at a table and a light facing down or something like that. But in most cases, the craft itself, it's almost like the light is emanating from all around, but they can't pinpoint a source. Almost like it's coming from the walls or the structure itself.
Okay. Okay.
Have you heard the same on your end?
Yeah, I mean, I've had people when they're reporting a sighting. You know what I mean? We've
Hmm.
heard before where many people will have different experiences, even though there's a lot of you would think they're seeing the same thing, but they're seeing different lights, they're seeing different movements,
Yeah,
things like that. I've come across that a lot in my cases that I've had, and that blows my mind. You know what I mean? To think that something's happening and you have 30 people that are seeing this object in the sky, and every one of them seeing something different and describing something different.
sure.
And then when
Yeah,
you think about, I love the database how we have in MUFON, you know what I mean, and how
yeah,
and we always look for cases that are similar. But it's like if these people are all seeing different things, but it's the
mhm,
same event, you know what I mean? It's like, man, how can we collect that data and make it all connected? You know what I mean? That's what I think about sometimes.
yeah,
Because
and
you know
and you
how we
have
look for
really
similar cases and we kind of put them together, But it's like, what if they're seeing different things or reporting different things? You know what I mean? How can we connect all that data? And do you imagine how much of it's actually out there?
Oh, there's so much more out there for sure. And I know that MUFON is eventually going to be incorporating like AI analysis systems to make better use of all that their data that's in there, because you want to look for patterns, you want to look for repeat behaviors, and so to that could really accelerate our understanding of the encounters themselves. Um, yeah, I I think of Denise Stoner's abduction case, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And in her case, you have multiple witnesses, um, not only just more than one people that were in the car, and there was missing time, but on their destination, they were to meet up with people, and they were hours late. And the speedometer on the car, for instance, it didn't clock any additional mileage that they seem to have.
Mileage.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I don't know how, I don't know, understand how a skeptic can just sort of toss a case like that aside and not really take it seriously, because you have multiple factors, that corroborate the case and
Right.
support that something strange did happen.
I think what they try to do is people like that try to discredit the witness. And you know what I mean? They find ways to try to do that. So they say, well, she must not have had that experience. Therefore, there was no mileage put on the car, which explains that. You know what I mean? And it's a shame that that happens because,
Hmm.
especially it's mostly scientists that are skeptics. You know what I mean? And they're the ones that are supposed to be open minded to really help us with
Sure.
this
Yeah.
subject. You
Yeah,
know?
I mean they go with the ad hominem attack if they've got nothing else to
Right.
go with, but especially in the multiple witness cases, that becomes, you know more difficult to do, because multiple people who are confirming, corroborating that they had the same experience or saw the same thing. What are you going to say, that they're all crazy? That they were
Right,
all,
right.
all on drugs, when that's, wasn't patently true at all. Yeah. Of all the cases that, it could be a famous case or something obscure, what is like the most intriguing contact or close encounter case that for you, that's always been there and sits in your mind and it comes back to you and you think about it?
So I think of Travis Walton all the time. I love Travis Walton's story.
Mm.
I love how he was out there with multiple people that witnessed him get taken by the craft. I love the fact that he was gone for multiple days. You know what I mean? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had to put it in there 3 different times. If you've seen how I did it, it wouldn't let me
I
put a
see it. Yep.
website in there, all in one word.
I'm
Okay.
gonna
But
get it.
yeah, I love Travis Walton because, I mean, to be gone multiple different days and then to come back and be at a random payphone or like a little, you know what I mean, and make that phone call and to have them listening in on that phone call. So it's not like he made it all up. You know what I mean? They remember, I don't know if you, in Travis Walton's story, when he calls on that payphone on the 5th day when he was returned, the government was listening in on that phone call on the payphone. So they knew he was there at that location. And right before they got there, his friend had picked him up and taken him home. So I mean, it's really neat how the chain of events happened, and they were able to confirm that he was actually there, and it happened. It's mind blowing. And I had the DVD and I watched that, and I had the book and read that, and met Travis a couple times. Really cool guy. Um, really good story. If you're looking for what has corroborated evidence and a lot of details in it, that's a great case to look at.
Oh, I think it is hands down the best case. Especially because there was attraction from the town and from the police department, because they initially had
Yeah,
thought that these men, were covering up some kind of accident or
killed him.
a murder of something. And so, because of that attention, there was an investigation like none other in the history of UFO abductions. I mean, they had
Right.
teams of people. They had, I think there were some people on horseback, not horseback. They had teams of dogs, searching the Turkey Hills, Turkey
Yeah,
Springs
they searched for
forest
days.
for days looking for him. Yeah. And then you have the lie detector administered to these individuals. You have
Yeah.
medical tests done on Travis. There's so much there. I'm dumbfounded that someone who's like of a truly skeptical mind, I don't mean a debunker, but someone who's a truly skeptical mind, isn't just fascinated by this case and spend their time, reading through it. I mean, at Travis Walton's book, I think Fire in the Sky, right, was the name of the book.
Yeah.
He does
Hmm.
an excellent job of countering all the debunking, especially done by Philip Klass at the time.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I want to know, like, how many of those debunkers and skeptics actually picked that book up and read it before, they go on the attack.
I
And I
can't
don't
see
think
them
it's
being
many.
a scientist. You don't think many read it
I don't think many
at all?
skeptics. No, I think you probably have someone like
No.
Seth Shostak, who's, from SETI, who is, I think, an honest skeptic. I think he's biased, but I think he's an honest person, and he's probably read it. But for the most part, when you see a lot of these debunker attacks online, these are people who actually aren't doing the research. They're looking at the
Right. That
case
aren't
on a
educated
very
on
surface
the
level. Yeah, yeah.
right.
And
Yeah,
I
it's
think,
crazy because you take an oath as a scientist when you take
mhm,
that kind of position, that job. You go to school to be open minded and to look at things
yes, yeah,
that we don't really know of yet. And to take that oath and do that, and then to ignore
mhm,
things like this, and to not really look at all the evidence and just make an assumption,
yeah,
kind of goes against everything a scientist is supposed to be, right?
yeah. I kind of feel like scientists should have their own Hippocratic oath. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
just like
like an
medical
oversight.
students have. Yeah, well, like a moral compass. Um, In medicine, it's do no harm essentially. Um,
Right.
and this should be the same, I think, for anyone who studies science. Uh, all goals for science should be oriented toward the benefit of humanity and making life better for us, improving life, making it enjoyable,
Absolutely.
and I could, maybe it's naive to think that if you run students through school and you try to drill that into their mindset, into their philosophy, into their approach to methodology and science, that would change things. But I would imagine there would certainly be an increased number of people who are studying sciences that might
Absolutely.
actually behave more responsibly if they were trained that way.
Yeah, I think today in today's time, kids growing up today are way more open-minded than kids
Hmm.
that grew up back in the 80s and 70s and 60s. You know what I mean? And then
Hmm.
you also don't have that crazy stigma there. You know what I mean? Where the government and the military is sending people to your home and harassing you and doing those things today.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a completely different world, and we kind of had that disclosure effect happening where we've been getting little bits and pieces where that would never happen back then.
Yeah. I do struggle a little bit with this. So a skeptic might say, look, I'm not saying, people are having these contact experiences are, you know, uber crazy, but um, maybe they do just need help. Maybe they just need to talk to a regular psychologist, and that would be enough. And I can understand that to a degree. The and the problem with that is that it's kind of like saying that if you intake someone's report, if you're there to listen to them, you're almost only reaffirming their fantasy, right? So, like from a psychologist point of view, that would be a bad thing to reaffirm a fantasy. Uh, and but I don't,
Right, right,
and I
absolutely.
understand that on the one hand, I do because there certainly are the occasional person where they are unwell, but the problem with that argument as a blanket argument, it's almost like a not an ad hominem, but it's like a guilting argument. Because it's like saying if you do anything other than this approach, then you are potentially harming or not doing well, by people who
Right,
are coming and sharing these experiences. How would
right.
being an experiencer and having experience helping people, how would you respond to that if you were in a healthy, conversation with a skeptic?
Oh my God, that would be.
Could you
It's
imagine?
hard because people like that are so set
Yeah.
in their ways. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People like that are really set in their ways, and they really don't. And they're the professional in that situation too, and you're the
Hmm.
client. So it's like, are they really going to even give you the time of day to listen to what you have to say and really actually take it in and listen? Um, See, a really good thing that's starting to happen is I'm seeing therapists and individuals with licenses to help people like that are starting to slowly open UFO textbooks and looking at the data and the experience or phenomenon. Um, so if I had to give any advice on that, I would say, look for somebody that's like that has an open mind. And I
Hmm.
had an individual that I interviewed on my podcast on season one. His name is Eric Schlimmer, and he is a psychologist, and
Hmm.
he's into the UFO phenomenon. And he actually started bringing in experiencers and that he has as clients. You know what I mean? And he's open to this whole subject. So I think that would be somebody that you would want to go to that would be open minded enough to speak to about what happened to you. You know what I
Sure.
mean? That's the
Yeah.
person that I would want to speak to. If you're not even open minded to the possibility that what happened to me happened, then I don't think it's even beneficial, at that point.
It's not worth the argument. Yeah.
Right. Right. Because I really don't think that even if I told them and went to them with every little bit of data, you know what I mean, and evidence, and
Hmm.
would they even consider that? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know.
Are
And
people
that's what I find
still?
difficult. And if no, then what's the point?
Yeah, yeah, of course. It is still. I would say that's true. It's still typical. But yes, like you said, there's also exceptions these days, more than in the past. Um, are
Right.
you still hearing accounts, modern accounts of alien alleged implants? Because I remember in like the 90s, early 2000s, Dr. Roger Lear,
That was a
and
big thing.
that was it was like a thing. I mean, it was, video recorded these removals of implants, and they were really, detail oriented um,
Yeah. That's a
studies on
great book,
this.
by the way. Roger Lear's Implants. That book is absolutely phenomenal.
Right. And but since his
If you're
his
looking for a
pass
good book on
passing, like
implants.
there's no one else, I don't think, that's leading in the way that he is. And I wonder, are we having less people who are reporting implants?
I mean, I think so. I mean, I haven't had an implant report, I don't think, since I started. I've had people say that they think that they
Mhm.
have had implants, and I've tried to
Sure. Yeah.
help them collect the data to find out if they have, because we know, like EMF readers, you can, if, most of the time implants do give off a signal. But we've learned
Mhm.
that through Roger Lear. He used EMF readers and different devices to get these signals. So a lot of time, if you think you have one, an EMF reader or a stub finder or things like that can help you detect them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I never the experiencer never went that far enough to be able to figure out if they did or not and didn't get the EMF reader. So, but I don't have anybody reporting definite implants and evidence of it. I haven't had that since I started with MUFON, and I started in 2019. I mean, that's it's a long time.
Yeah.
You would think I would come across it by now.
Yeah, you would think so,
But
and I just don't hear a lot about it, especially in the age of social media. You would think it would be more prolific, that shared information, because you wouldn't have to rely on a show like, I don't know,
right,
Ancient Aliens or Sightings or a documentary of some sort. It could just be out there. Listening to Coast, over the years, I felt like there's a slowdown of reports about implants as well. Yeah, and there used to be some really strange uh, properties to these things, like you said, like it would react maybe to like an EMF signal, or it would move. Like, apparently, like I remember seeing video, it's been a while, where it looks like the metallic little object kind of like moves a little bit in
yeah.
reaction
Roger Lear
to.
talks about it in the book. He says if you
Yeah,
could actually move it under the skin,
right,
with your
it would
fingers
move
would make it move back and
itself
forth and
almost.
you control where it
Right.
went.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And then also reports of it kind of almost just upon observation or an attempt to remove it would kind of dissolve into the body, which is really bizarre.
Yeah. Yep. It would take itself and burrow deeper. Yep. It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, though, if we're not getting reports of objects like that anymore, implants, have they upgraded to something new? You know what I mean? To the ETs, I'm talking about.
Well,
Did they
I
have they
think this.
upgraded to something different that we're not seeing now?
Yeah. Okay. So I think that this may be one of those clues that could lead us somewhere to understanding what a change of behavior or new approaches, because just like I believe we're having less close encounters with UFO craft, where we have far fewer large scale sightings, like the Phoenix Lights and at Stephenville in 2008. I believe because of our technology advancing, because we have cell phones and cameras on every building, everywhere. We have more, like tons of satellites now in the sky, and
Yeah.
there's a proliferation of detection devices of all sorts. And because of that, I do think that they've almost kind of stepped back, and they're keeping their distance, and you know lessening their chances of being caught on camera and what have you. And okay, so if that's true, it's an assumption, but if that's true, then maybe we're seeing the same thing with the implant. Maybe they're not doing implants because maybe our medical technology or other technologies for detecting this have increased, or perhaps because we all have cell phones in our pockets, and maybe the cell phone signal would somehow interfere or react with
Yeah, like the
the
radio would
implant.
do.
Yeah.
Yep,
Hmm.
absolutely. That's interesting.
Yeah,
It's something to think about for sure.
exactly. Yeah. And I hope that like we can get to a point where we see more of these possible presumed patterns and make something of it. And I'm really excited about what AI can do, because MUFON is a volunteer organization, and there's only so much money there to put into
Right, right.
developing software and hiring people to run programs. So the affordability of AI could really make a big difference here. Here's another question, though. This is just a speculative one for you. If AI, does eventually become, I don't want to use the word singularity, that seems a bit overblown or overused, but if it does come into its own consciousness, the first one, does that present a problem, do you think, with our continued uh, search for or possible interaction with, non-human intelligence?
I would see that. I don't know. AI scares me a lot.
Me too.
Getting
It
that
really
far, you
does.
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It frightens me a lot. And when you hear people like Stephen Hawking and Elon Musk talk
Mhm.
about it and warn us about it, you know what I mean? It's like those are the people. If anybody knew, they would know. You know what I mean? Smartest,
Sure.
some of the
Yeah.
smartest people in the world. Um, and it's like if they got if AI got to that point where they were kind of thinking for themselves and doing that kind of thing,
Mhm.
I don't think we would even have a place in making contact anymore anyway, because they would find they would probably think that they'd be better at initiating that contact and probably
Right.
more civil and
That's
than
that's
humans would be. You know what I mean?
mhm. Yeah, that's what I was curious
So I
about,
think they would.
would they interfere?
Right, right. I don't know. I don't think. I think if anything, they would take over that role of making that contact rather
Mhm.
than letting us try to do it. Especially because there's no one leader here on Earth. You know what I mean? AI would coincide with each other, and there would only be one. You know what I mean? They kind of work as one. So I think they would take that over rather than have us try to make contact and then have like the United States trying to talk to them, Russia trying to talk to them, China.
Mhm.
Because would we come together as a people to like have the world, you know, NATO or somebody like that speak for the entire world? Are we capable of doing that as a human
Yeah.
beings? You know what I mean? Where AI would probably be a lot safer and more I don't know, more better at doing that in a sense, you know what I mean, than we would. I don't know.
Yeah, they actually might be a great interpreter for an alien species that is
Right,
more advanced than us, sentient, maybe similar in many ways, but maybe also different. Um, if you liken it to
right.
something
That's
like
true.
trying to communicate with dolphins, they're clearly sentient. Um, they
Right.
seem to be totally self-aware.
I think of human flaws when we talk about this. You know what I mean? That's what I
Yeah,
think of,
yeah.
the flaws of a human being. And that's why we're not the ones that would be good to speak with them for the first time, making that initiate that contact. You know, would AI think, okay, well maybe they're all going to try to keep it for themselves, and then they're
Right.
going to start a war over it, and you know what I mean? That's how I
Hmm.
think, and I think AI would definitely cut us out of the picture if it got to that point. You know what I mean? I mean, look at what's going on right now with Israel, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's what humans do. They're fighting. I mean, we're a war consuming people.
Yeah, but
So it worries
that
me.
brings up the whole thing about AI being it's modeled um, off of humans. Um,
Right. Right.
Everything that it is or can become is drawn from human knowledge and emotion and behaviors. So I'm not saying that it would have emotion like us, but we don't know how that modeling will affect a fully conscious AI. And it maybe it just decides that all of that is BS, and I'm just going to be purely logical. On the other
Right.
hand, you might have differing AI, because I know what you're thinking. You were thinking about like AI would almost seem to all AI would merge because it would be on the same level. But because you
Right.
actually have different companies in different countries developing AI, um, if the first AI doesn't kind of take over everything, what if you
Right.
get uh, separate AIs coming into consciousness, self-consciousness, self-awareness,
I've never
and
thought
they
about it that way,
and
Alan.
they disagree
I've
with each other,
never.
and what if they're in
That's
conflict with each
crazy.
other?
I've never even. That's not. I've never even thought about that before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's. Yeah, that would be. That's crazy.
And that could be I hate to be so dire, but that could be apocalyptic,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
because everything AI is because of human beings. We just don't know how that they would behave amongst themselves.
Yeah. That's very true. Would there be good? Would there be bad? Would there be a mix of it? Yeah. You're right.
Interesting, right?
You're absolutely
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a whole nother rabbit hole you got me thinking about now.
Well, I think it is
I've
interesting to
really
think
never
about.
even thought about that before.
Yeah, when it comes to ET contact, you do have experiencers who come away and they're like, this being seemed like a biological being. It seemed a little more emotive, like naturally emotive. And then this,
Right.
small gray seemed like ant-like or more robotic-like. And I think
Right.
that it only makes sense that it's significantly advanced species would also develop, computers and AI, um, and other forms of consciousness, and that's probably what we're seeing there. And I do wonder if that explains the smaller percentage. I think it's something like, I don't know, like it ranges from like 10, to 15, 20% of people who report having bad experiences, um, in contact experiences, and
Yeah.
that percentage will shrink a little bit over time, the way they um, when they reconsider their whole experience. But the initial experience can oftentimes seem very kind of cold, like very lab rat like. And that to me sounds like maybe that's what we're seeing is the extraterrestrials version of AI kind of going out there and doing work on their behalf. If we were to build,
Hmm.
it's like us, if we build a robot, right, to work in our homes, there would be like that little bit of a fear that they might do something that
Right. Yep.
it's not amoral to them. It's just a behavior that's a little bit off from their programming, but they don't have the human consciousness to kind of check itself.
Right. Hmm. It's that
And
movie
I'm
with
just,
the robots, and the one they're all red, and the one turns blue. And he fights against the red ones that
oh,
kind of took over. I forget the name of that
it's
movie.
not iRobot, right? That was with Will Smith.
Yeah, yeah, iRobot.
Was
No,
that it?
yeah, iRobot. Yeah, that's it.
Oh, because its eyes turned blue. Is that what it was?
Yeah, his head turns blue, the color of his head, and whatever
Oh, okay,
his
okay.
light, and all the other ones are red, and he's kind of different from them all. He learns how humans think, and he learns to have like human traits,
Hmm.
and then helps them fight against that. You know what I mean? See,
Right.
all of our movies where AI kind of takes over, like
Yeah.
Terminator, iRobot, for example. It's one AI versus the world. You know what I mean? And that's how I've always thought of it. But when you
Mm-hmm.
bring up thinking about different AIs from different areas and that being different, like I've really
Right.
never even thought of that possibility before. You know what I mean? So to think about that, I mean, I guess it could happen that way. You know what I mean? Especially having different countries with different AIs. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I guess there is a really good possibility of that.
Well, I think there's also this assumption that AI would be emotionless and hive-like, right? Like an ant colony. They would just kind of,
Right.
conjoin together. But, look at like a bee colony, right? Bees actually kind of have a personality, like even individual bees. So, the people, and that's perfectly an example. Terminator, iRobot, where the general consensus view is there would be this hive-like merging of AI sentience, but still the exception.
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger being the exception in T2, the
Yeah,
robot and
he was
iRobot being
reprogrammed. Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so, is that just wishful thinking? I wonder, or is that something sort of intuitive that
Well, I guess it would
we
have.
should
I mean,
expect?
it would have to be that way, right? Because it would be like putting a virus into that AI. You know what I mean? Any virus
Hmm.
can change an AI, right? So
Well,
I mean,
that's
if an
true.
AI is a
Yeah.
certain way and you put a virus in it, it would change.
Hmm.
I don't
Okay,
know.
so
Maybe.
and we won't jump into quantum AI because that's like way above what I can possibly even conceive of right now. But yeah, Jesse, thanks so much for hanging out tonight. I really enjoyed it. It's good to
Yeah,
talk to you as always.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I was happy to come on and talk, man. It's been a while, so I appreciate it.
I
Good
know.
time.
Yeah, we've got to catch up. We missed each other because neither of us went to Pine Bush this year. So
I'm
we'll have to
definitely
catch
going
up at
next
another
year.
event.
I'm making it a plan to definitely go next year because it's been 2 years now since I didn't go.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
going every year, but it was like different things going on. So but
Hmm.
I'm making it a definite plan next year to
Well,
go.
and there's also the Carbon Dalian Festival as well. That's a new
I don't
festival
know
that
about that one.
launched. Yeah, I launched it. I launched it. It launched last November for its um, first event for first fair, and I spoke there, which was fun, and it was a
Is
big
that
hit.
Carbondale, PA, or
Carbondale, PA, yeah, it's they call it the Carbondalian Festival.
really? I'm gonna have to look at that.
Yeah,
I was looking
yeah, and
at
maybe we can meet up there at some point.
yeah, absolutely. I was looking at the Kecksburg Festival, the Kecksburg UFO Festival.
Oh, that's way too
That's one
far
I
for
never
me.
went to before.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's far from
Yeah,
you
I didn't
too,
look
from
at how far it
Philadelphia.
was. I
Yeah.
just seen it and was like, oh my god, you know.
Yeah, isn't it? It's like it's almost towards Pittsburgh. I feel like it's pretty far out there.
Okay, yeah, I
I
didn't
don't know
look
if it's that far,
exactly where
but
it
it's
was. I just
far.
seen
Yeah.
it in PA. Okay,
Yep.
I
But
see
if you can
things and I
leave
get
us
happy
with
when I see UFO festivals.
if you can leave us with one thought, anything at all, Jesse, what would it be?
Um, my biggest thing that I've always been on, and we spoke about it earlier, is to have an open mind about things, especially this phenomenon. I mean, we know about how many different rabbit holes there are, how many different experiences there are. The possibilities are really endless, and I think if you have to have an open mind about things, and by having that open mind, you'll really advance in this field and really have a better understanding about it, have more of a connection with people, and just a better overall thought process of the phenomenon. So
Yeah.
open-mindedness, definitely.
All right. Cool. Well, let's keep an open mind and happy 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. I hope you have a great weekend, my friend.
Yes, thank you. Happy 4th. Hope everybody has a good weekend and enjoys it with their family. And thanks again for having me on, Alan. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. And thank you for your service regarding this holiday as well. Like, I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, brother. All right. Well, good night. And thanks, Jesse. And thank you, everybody, for joining in the chat. I appreciate your questions and comments. This has been a nice kind of fireside chat tonight with Jesse Peak. So please go check out his podcast, UFO Encounters Worldwide. Great interviewer, really knowledgeable ufologist as well. This podcast is rebroadcast on the UnX network every Thursday evening, 11 p.m. Pacific time, 2 a.m. Eastern time on Friday mornings. If you like this podcast, please give a good review, a rating, follow here on YouTube, and leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on experiencers and everything we have discussed, including technical interferences. Until next time, peace and love, everyone, and live in the mystery.